Signore e signori, buongiorno.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Boys and girls, I can see you're very numerous. So, on behalf of the Italian exhibition group, the Vicenza Rimini Fair organized in Vicenza Oro, I would like to welcome you all. My name is Marco Carniello, and I'm the director of the fair, and I'm very grateful for you all to be here today. Just a few words to define the context of what we're doing at Vicenza Oro. Well, first of all, this room bears the name Educational Hub. So you are in our educational hub, because we believe that fairs are not just a place to make business, to buy and sell, but they are platforms that must support the whole industry to evolve, and they must also educate the people of the industry, since education is fundamental for the evolution of the industry and our society at large. We want to provide our contribution. So this is not the place where you trade or make business, but it is a place where you try to improve. Of course, the fair cannot teach you anything, but we ask partners, and in this case Assogemme, to organize educational content. So let's forget about the fair as a market. It is not a market, it is a platform supporting the industry. And industries are made not only by manufacturers and traders, but they are made also by designers, craftsmen, consultants, students who will then start working in this industry. This is why our audience today is incredibly mixed, and I'm very proud of that. Talking about partnerships, one of our most successful and long-lasting partnerships is the one with Assogemme. Assogemme is a consolidated association that supports us in approaching many different topics, very often related to gems, but not always. The title today, for instance, Gentle Creativity, will certainly go beyond gemstones. So I would like to thank the super speakers that have been brought here by Assogemme. Thank you very much today to Dr. Corsini and to Raffaele, who has now become a friend of Vicenza Oro. Thank you very much for bringing education and culture to all of us. Thanks to the audience for being here, and thank you very much to the president of Assogemme. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for being here today. Maybe the room is a little bit too crowded, but we will find a way to get more chairs so that everybody can sit down. Let me just briefly introduce our seminar. Good afternoon, first of all. My introduction today has a dual purpose. First of all, I would like to thank you all for being here to focus on the idea of gentle creativity. I have heard this concept also during the morning at another seminar. And I also heard Alessia Crivelli mentioning it. So let me thank once again Marco Carniello, director of Vicenza Oro. Thank you very much for hosting us. Thank you very much also for your gentle and kind support. Thank you very much for giving us visibility, as well as a place where we can organize our seminars. I would also like to thank Mrs. Donatella Zappieri. Thank you very much for being the link between Olga Corsini and Assogemme. Olga Corsini will be our speaker today. And I would like to thank Olga for using gentleness and gentle creativity as a bridge to bring her experience to us and to bring to us also the glamour of the big groups and the ultra brands. So my second purpose is that of creating connections, expanding our field, expanding the space of gentle creativity, trying to find traces of this also in our work. And it is not easy. It is not easy because if you think about Assogemme, you think about something that has little to share with gentleness. Our job is a tough one. We start from the raw material, which is the hardest raw material existing in the world, and we heavily process the raw material. We cut it, we remove material, we carve it. So what has Assogemme got to do with gentle creativity? Well, we use hard mechanical tools on hard raw material, but our purpose is gentle because we want to enhance the rough gemstone. We want to give it grace, light, color. When creating a piece of jewelry, extraction is perhaps the first point of connection between human skills and nature's wealth. But it is through cutting that the rough gemstones gets closer to being a jewel. So our gentle ambition is that of allowing the gemstone to meet with the idea of jewelry, to allow the raw material to be transformed into something which is more gentle, thanks to the creativity, the ingenuity, and the intelligence of our hands. Our work is a gentle work for other reasons as well. Maybe we should not enter an etymological debate, but the term gentle and the term gente, people, share something. They've got something in common, and our work is gentle because it is based predominantly on our capability to relate to people, to all the people working in the jewelry industry. I've nearly finished, I promise. We serve people. We allow gemstones to connect with the idea of jewelry, serving those who have this idea. We have relations with our suppliers, our staff, our colleagues, our customers, and especially, albeit indirectly, with the customers of our customers. All these relationships must be characterized by gentleness. A gentleness that goes beyond good manners, which, of course, we do need. It is a gentleness of sincere relationships, maybe sometimes tense but sincere, and for this reason, durable. It is a gentleness of good people whom you can trust. It is a gentleness of those who do not view a relationship as a clash, as a forceful relationship, but rather as the sharing of forces and efforts for a final purpose, which is a shared one. After a few years, we have realized that gentleness works. It pays you back in terms of life quality and economic results. And if it works, we can promote it for the shared interest of our people, other people working in the jewelry industry. And since, just like you, I'm curious to understand how gentleness can work in the world of creativity, I shall gladly leave the floor to Olga and to our dear Raffaele. Thank you.
If I may, I'd like to add one thing. Again, the word is gentle. We are trying to educate to gentleness. We have members of the Goldsmith School who are sitting amongst us. We also have the director of the school and the Ghirardi Training Agency that we'd like to acknowledge for their presence here. It was set up in 1904. So we can boast of quite a long history when it comes to training and education. The training agency has attracted a number of people who are going to be the newcomers in our industry. So we're trying to make them even more gentle with our education program. Thank you.
Buongiorno di nuovo.
Good afternoon again. So our president said that this is not the time to hold big speeches, but you know, I deal with words. Olga works with gemstones and I work with words. And at times in words you also find meaning. The president just said that the word gentle and the word people are connected in Italian or in Latin. Is there any word that you can connect to creativity that starts with the same root, gen, that sounds like gens, and gentile? Even genius or ingeniousness has the same root, so it has something to do with gentle, with the name that in Latin stands for people. So this is old root that has to do with the generation, gen being the part. Geniality is what that generates. Genius is what generates. And gens or people stands for family, and gentleness is the combination of virtuous relationships that are established within the family. And what are those virtuous relationships that are established within the family? Trust, the ability to relate, to connect with the other, the possibility to live together in the past, at the present, and in the future, the capability to support and feel supported. These are all the main features, and I see many friends in the audience who run businesses, who own companies, and in their companies they have established gentleness, the capability to trust one another, to be together in the past, in the present, and in the future, capability to support and get supported. Without these elements that are based on gentleness, a company cannot be run, irrespective of the profits, because it is on this base that profits are based on being gentle. Then I'd like to address the youngest amongst you. So remember that when you do polish, when you work with gold, you have to always work being gentle in the way you establish relationship with the others, because genius is at the very basis of creating, because if you create by yourself, if you don't establish relationship, you don't get anywhere. So you have to have a shared genius, a shared ingenuity. You have to be able to share that ingenuity, being gentle. This is why genius, gentleness have the same root, And that element is to be part and parcel of your curriculum. Otherwise, your work is going to be much more difficult. And this is obviously all connected to the ingenuity of creativity. And who's better suited to talk about that? But Olga Corsini is the one that I'm going to give the floor to. Olga is quite an extraordinary person, coming from quite an extraordinary family. You've just learned that her surname is Corsini. Well, your family is closely related to the past history of Florence, to the Renaissance. As we were saying at lunch, you also have a Russian background. Your family also has roots in France and Spain. So basically, you come from Tuscany, but your background is much wider than that. If I understand correctly, you've designed your first ring at 14 and you've never stopped. So at the beginning you were doing that for yourself, and then you started developing rings and jewels for Bulgari, Fred, Chaumet, and you've also worked away from our industry. You worked for Nespresso and Ferragamo as well. So basically, you've been traveling across different industries. Another word that has a common root with being gentle is that you have you have 3 girls. One is perhaps a bit older. And you've decided to live in cities starting with the capital L, Lausanne and London. Having said this much, Olga, can you please tell us why you believe in gentle creativity? Why do you think that creativity has to be gentle at all? Well, gentle creativity is synonymous with an approach to working that has a number of specific features, maybe skills, talents. Basically, it requires passion, compassion, the ability to share, and confiance, that is, trust. So you talked about sharing and trust. Well, passion is pretty much the starting point. It is the first major thrust that you experience. It is the fire that burns inside and that urges you. Compassion is also all important. Compassion is like being able to feel at the same time as another. It is more difficult to feel this sharing, this compassion, or when you're going through a difficult, or when the other person is going through a difficult time. So you have to experience others people feeling. And in our job, basically, you have to be able to perceive the requirements, the need of another market, of a customer, but also of a colleague and the team. So compassion, feeling together, sympathy, is something that has to do with this skill, with this ability that we have being creative, and it is something to, again, enter into this special connection with the other. So sharing and compassion are closely connected. Sharing entails the capability to enter into a conversation, an open conversation, a frank conversation, a conversation where you don't fear criticism, because we shan't forget that the creative process entails always something new. At times it may be scary. So oftentimes people are not bold enough to establish this conversation, to question themselves, but in sharing one's ideas, in joining efforts with other people, you can actually share, feel compassion, so as to give birth to a project that is significant and beautiful. Earlier on, you were referring to confiance in French, the word for trust, and the ability to bear with criticism. Confiance is something different again, because confiance is synonymous with trust, which is the driving engine, and entails you being able to be always positive and calm at difficult times. It is as if you held a belief. The creative process takes you before a blank page. The true creative person is the one that cannot bear the sight of a blank page, of the unknown, because of course there's something that cannot be criticized because it hasn't been developed. So trust is that this strength, the determination to go forward, to accept your own mistakes. This is all important because, again, success comes only after a number of failures. Being able to stand after many, after falling down, and if you feel that you're not alone in doing that, you're much stronger. So the combination of all the above is synonymous with a working method where everybody has a say, where we can all be members to a team. You know, the designer is just but the designer. The design in itself, of course, it's nothing, because the final objective is to come up with a collection with jewelry items. So basically, there are many other crafts that are to be added to that of the designer to come up with a final object, to the design of a real making of a jewel. Why don't you take notes? Because this is something you should remember, kids.
Success as a succession of mistakes is an extraordinary idea. So making mistakes now, because it'll be more difficult in the future to make these days. You'll always make mistakes. Right, but I would like to ask you the following. I mean, you've told us enlightening concepts that pertain to the way you work. But in the end, you don't sell designs, you sell jewels. And the president told us before, I am working for the customers of my customers. The final customers going in the store, I mean, can the final customer recognize gentle creativity? I believe he or she can, because the projects and the objects that have been created following a working method like gentle creativity have an aura, have a force, have a balance, a harmony. Your eyes are shining when you talk about this. I know. So in my opinion, what is interesting in creativity is living behind the concept of aesthetics, full stop. And the Greeks used to express this very well when defining ideal perfection with two adjectives, beautiful and good, kolos kagatos. And we often tend to say about a person, a beautiful person inside and outside, but this also applies to items. A beautiful item, and the new generations are actually looking for this. So the new luxury item that young people want to own is an object that has been produced fairly. It is not only beautiful, it has been created following methods that are based on humanity, that are respectful of our planet, that are ethically sustainable. And this balance, this perfection, maybe is not tangible in the sense that it cannot be described, but it can certainly be perceived. Well, this morning, Alessia Crivelli was explaining to us that the beauty of a jewel has to be related with the inner beauty of the people producing that piece of jewelry. I absolutely agree. Does this have an advantage for the final customer? Yes, undoubtedly, because the final customer is or comes in relation with something which is serene, with a feeling, an emotion that goes through the object. So in my opinion, this is an extra dimension that goes beyond, and it is very important. So with Assogemme, we are entering the markets of jewelry with an eye to the human factor. Last time we met with Carlo Bartorelli, we were actually talking about the value of humanity in retail, the added value of humanity. And now we're discovering the value of humanity in the world of creativity and how this gives value to the jewel and how the final customer realizes this and looks for this. Yes, they look for this because if you really work with gentleness, you discard many other factors that go towards consumerism, quick use. So you discard copies, egocentric cathartic processes, which do not aim at creating a new project, meeting some needs. So you discard competition at any cost. So it is a human factor that goes beyond the gem and that can be found in the item because that item is more original, deeper. That was more time consuming in making, so it is very important not to rush. Sure, slow manufacturing, this is very important. Purchasing processes in the jewelry store take time. Acquiring information takes time. Production takes time in jewelry. Exactly, so maybe we're the lucky ones. Because when you create a piece of jewelry, you go through so many steps that it is still a slow process, especially if you compare it to fashion. However, in the end, you actually produce a small work of art that has a value, which is not just a monetary value, but which is the result of savoir-faire, know-how, craftsmanship that has been produced by a human being. So even though machines are used in some technical passes, there's still a lot of work done by hand. The first time we spoke on the telephone, talking about craftsmen, you said my craftsmen, as if, yeah, I also say my designers, as if it was a family, and as if it was a matter of mutual belonging. So the old idea of creativity and of the solitary genius is actually leaving room to a holistic process. Yes, maybe there's still a coup de génie. Maybe that could be the initial idea. All of a sudden have an intuition. And intuition is very important in creative people because it determines the following symphony. But that idea has to be consolidated. And when you consolidate that idea, and this is a time-consuming process because it means understanding the brief, understanding the project, understanding all the existing constraints and all the existing needs, then at that point it is no longer an idea. It become a vision. And here we're talking about sharing because this vision has to be shared. Because once again, being the creative director on my own, I wouldn't do anything. So I have to explain this vision, and I have to have a group supporting this vision. Designers, CAD technicians, goldsmiths, finishing technologists, gemstone cutters. And together we play a new symphony. Fabulous. So you are De Beers creative director. De Beers equals diamonds. I'm sorry if I am so obvious, but my question is, for a gentle creative person, does it make the difference if you work with a natural gemstone or a gemstone that has been produced in a big oven? There is a lot of difference because the natural gemstones has an emotional dimension that does not exist in a lab-grown gem. So if we're talking about gems that have been created by human beings, for me, all the dreaming about it disappears. I mean, thinking that this tiny gem was created by volcanic explosions millions of years ago, it is the result of nature that I am discovering and receiving as a gift from nature. Well, this already contains so much energy that I have a magical dialogue with the gemstones, a dialogue which I do not have with a lab-grown gemstone. So natural gemstones contain the magic. And our work is an emotional one. Without this magic, without this irrational dimension, okay, we can still be creative, but in a totally different way. I believe Loredana agrees with you on this. De Beers, diamonds. What about colored gemstones? Bridal and colored gemstones. What about this marriage? Well, to be honest, I was hoping for a yellow diamond and received two white diamonds. But talking about trois mois, a trois mois that has defined the history of jewelry is the one that Napoleon gave to Josephine. 2 drops, side to side, up and down, a blue sapphire and a white diamond. Trois mois has been for years the engagement ring. 2 gemstones, the white one for the bride and the colored one for the spouse, that were representing the couple. Then in the Romantic period, we had the Contrarier, which has been one of the best known engagement rings related to some colors that were related to the nation, to the noble families. And in Austria and Germany, for instance, a golden band with color gemstones at the center and 2 small diamonds on the sides has been for years the engagement ring. Another ring that is well known to all of us is Lady Di's ring, a beautiful sapphire, 12 carats, that William has now offered to Kate, and which in the history of jewelry still is one of the best known colored engagement rings. The engagement ring, the most modern engagement ring today, with the diamond on 4 prongs, is something very recent. It has developed together with De Beers, and we're talking of the 30s and the 40s of the previous century. And there are 2 dates that are worth remembering. One is very interesting for our industry. The introduction in 1939 of the first universal classification of diamonds, with the introduction by De Beers and the GIA of the 4 Cs. This is another coup de génie because it allowed everybody to understand in a relatively easy way whether the gemstone, the diamond, is a beautiful one or a poor one. Then in 1947, De Beers had an American copywriter, Francis Geraghty, creating a slogan that we all know: a diamond is forever. So most likely, still today, one of the best-known mottos of the 20th century is still a diamond is forever. And this certainly has some marketing consequences with this beautiful white diamond ring. It goes well with everything, so people like it.
We've been listening to this storytelling based on historical facts. So the passing on of storytelling that clients are seeking. Now let's go back to clients and gentle creativity. We have some more 15 minutes. And I want to ask you a difficult question now, which is connected to the subject of humanity. If I understood correctly, you said that gentle creativity is one that produces jewels that do not suffer or are not subject to time, but dominates over time. Hence, they become sustainable because they cannot be worn out. There are still many colleagues in the marketing area that talk about consumers, but clients are not consumers because jewels cannot be consumed, cannot be worn out. They are clients, especially so when we're talking about jewels, and especially so if clients are looking for ethic values. To what extent do you think that gentle creativity can meet this requirement for ethic values that our clients are putting forward? Well, gentle creativity is actually focusing on the client, who is not to be considered a consumer. When I think about a client, I think about something that meets his desires, his needs. So basically, my job is not something that is done for me, but for the market, for the client. As designers, basically, we are there to serve a cause. So I'd like to go back to these four very important words. Empathy. Empathy implies basically that you can be in someone else's shoes. So I don't want to express my taste. I don't want to satisfy my own desire. I don't want to find satisfaction from my own aspirations. Certainly not so when it comes to earning money. When I work, I carry out a much longer term process. And clients basically finds all what they are after because I want to practice empathy, and doing so I do an ethical job. So basically, again, you were saying that you don't work for yourself, you are not developing something for your own sake, but you are doing something to meet somebody else's dreams and desires. And this, in a way, enables you to go over yourself because you want to meet your client. So basically, when you work, when you design, you think about the client who's going to feel happy with that design. Thank you so much, Olga. We still have a couple of minutes, but I believe that we've covered it all. There's a comment away from the mic. Is there anything else that you wish to add? Well, let me thank you all. I'd like to thank you and Raffaele Vicenzauro, who's playing host of this meeting. I would like to thank Assogemme. I'd like to thank Donatella for introducing us, and I'd like to thank you all for listening. I'd like to wish to the would-be goldsmith a lot of success. I hope you're going to love your work a lot, because when you add love that we haven't named so far, but which is indeed a common denominator about all what we've said, then you can achieve great results. Thank you.